Here are 8 things I learned about wealth from being around millionaires. And I'm around millionaires in my everyday life, both in my life as a big law attorney and in my life as an entrepreneur and a business owner. And I'm gonna tell you some of the most important things that I have learned. So let's go ahead and jump right into the video. Set up my laptop today. I've got my phone with all of my notes, so let's get started. First and foremost, millionaires do not put their money all in one place. Y'all, millionaires do not put their money all in one place. On one hand, I'm talking about liquid cash, right? They're not keeping all of their cash at Chase Bank or all of their cash at, I don't know, what other banks are there? Doesn't matter. They're not keeping all of their banks at one bank. They're just not doing that. First and foremost, like obviously banks are a lot more regulated and safer than what they typically used to be in the past. But the point being is, if a bank were to shut down, or if you were banking at a local bank or whatever it may be, or it wasn't insured, or I don't know, you shouldn't be banking at a non-insured bank anyway, but you don't know what'll happen to your money, right? You don't want all of your money to be in that one place and then something happens and you're going belly up, or you're fighting for your money, or you're scrambling, right? So when they do keep their money in banks, it's not all at one bank, it's spread out amongst different banks. And on that same note, it's the same thing with investing. And I talked about this before and people said, oh, like, why do you have your investments in different places? And that's because I don't want all my investments like to be at one brokerage or to be at one place, right? And this is what I've learned from being around millionaires. When I talk to them about their investment accounts, they have multiple different investment accounts with multiple different brokerages and sometimes even multiple different advisors, right? So for example, I have an investment account with Fidelity. I'm not a millionaire yet, but taking the tips, taking the steps and getting there. I have my investment account with Fidelity. I have an investment account with Robinhood because I can trade crypto there. I know a lot of you don't like crypto. That's your business. You don't have to do it. Just placing your money in different places. Again, it's for security. It's for safety. You don't want to that's like putting all of your eggs in one basket, and you don't want to do that. And millionaires don't do that. It's the power of diversification, right? Diversify your money. Diversify where you keep your money. The next thing I've learned about wealth from being around millionaires and multimillionaires is they don't personally hold all of their wealth. And what I mean by that is they have like LLCs or S corporations or corporations or whatever it may be professionally set up that holds a lot of their wealth for them. There's a couple of different reasons for this, right? Like if you personally are sued, or you personally have something going on, or you personally have debt, or someone comes after you for something, you don't want whoever that is to get every single thing that you own. Right? If you're being sued in your personal capacity, you don't want them to also be able to come after your business assets. You don't also want them to be able to come after different things under different entity names, or maybe trust accounts you set up for your children, or like whatever it may be. And so you're not personally, or millionaires are not personally holding all of their wealth in their own name. So like, for example, they'll buy buildings, they'll buy real estate, they'll buy cars, they'll set up trust accounts, all these kinds of things, and they'll set it up in their corporation's name, or in their LLC's name, or in an S corp name, or under a shell company, or like whatever it may be, all legally, of course, right? This is not like legal or tax advice. I'm just telling you what I've learned from being around millionaires. And this is shielding your assets legally, right? Legally shielding your assets. And in that same kind of realm, you aren't commingling those funds, right? You're not commingling what you earn in your personal capacity if you have like a traditional W-2 job or whatever you receive as income personally. You're not mingling that with what comes in under your business or what comes in as real estate investments, right? And you're probably like, oh, but Sephora, not every millionaire has a business. You're wrong. Now, no, I'm just kidding. You may not be wrong, but it doesn't have to, like, a lot of people treat a business as like an official business, or it has to be an official business in the traditional sense. But that's not necessarily the case, right? If you're a millionaire or multimillionaire and you have real estate investment properties, or you are in the business of buying real estate and then renting it out to people, you have a business, right? That is a business. And a lot of them, again, they're not doing that in their personal name. And so that's what I mean. Like, it doesn't have to be like a Coca-Cola or Nike or like Rihanna's brand, right? Fenty Beauty or Selena Gomez's brand, right? Rare Beauty. It doesn't have to be a business in the traditional sense or how like a lot of people typically think of businesses. It's like, no, you're doing this thing that is netting you money. That is a business, period, right? That's a business. And so what they're doing is they're setting up entirely separate entities for those activities that they're doing, and that's shielding that income or keeping it separate from their personal income. And so they're keeping all of those things separate. So if you perhaps, or if they get sued again in their personal capacity, they're not also able to access these millions of dollars you have from what you've earned under your real estate business or under your tax business or like whatever it may be. So the key thing here is that entities offer protection, right? If you have everything in your personal name and something happens or just whatever it may be, you don't have that protection. The third thing that I learned from being around multimillionaires is that they value time over money. And I learned this honestly very, very early in like my business journey, because time is much more valuable than money, right? You only have so much time during the day. You can only do so much. And if you're directly correlating how much money you make to how much time you can put in, there's only a certain amount of money you are going to make. And so what I mean when I say is they value time over money, things that are not actively building them wealth, things that are not actively making them money, things that are not actively pushing them towards their goals, they aren't doing it. Instead, they are paying someone else to do it. And that's what I mean when I say they value time over money. So just some small examples is they aren't cleaning their houses. Why would they do that? That's not making them more money. That's not keeping up their multimillionaire status or making them grow even more, right? They're gonna pay someone else to clean the house, and then that time that they're saving from not cleaning their house, they can devote to making more millions or building upon their empire or whatever it is they wanna do, spending time with family, like literally whatever, right? So they're doing things that give them more time. Guys, oh my gosh, I kid you not, I was at, let's just say an event. I was at an event and I was talking to one of these multimillionaires that I'm talking about. And I remember him saying to me, because I was complimenting the beautiful kitchen. I was complimenting the beautiful, beautiful kitchen. And I mean, oh my gosh, it was gorgeous. And like, it's not even like I was insinuating, like I wasn't insinuating anything. I was genuinely complimenting the beautiful kitchen. And they were like, it is, right? It's too bad we don't use it. And I just laughed because like, I already knew that. Like I knew they didn't use it. It literally looked unused. But that's kind of my point, right? They're not cooking for themselves. They have a chef, or they're going out to eat, or they're ordering in, or like whatever it may be. They're not cooking for themselves, because for multimillionaires, that unless like they're a chef and they want to cook and it's right, I'm putting all of that aside, right? Putting all of that, love language and it's your job if they're a chef or whatever, putting all that aside, for the most part, they're not cooking for themselves. They hire chefs, they go out to eat, they have meal delivery, whatever it may be, right? Because to them, instead of cooking every single night, cooking dinner and meals every single night, they're gonna give that time back to themselves to, again, spend more time with family, to go on vacations, to make more money, to whatever it is they want to do something else other than cooking. So that's what I mean when I say they value time over money. And those are like really small examples, but you can easily put it into perspective, but they also do that on a much grander scale. So when you're thinking about it, when you get your business to certain levels, or even when you in your personal life get to certain levels, like if you're making multiple six figures and you're trying to scale or you're trying to do more in your personal life or in your career, hire an assistant. That's like one of the first things I did. Honestly, that's one of the first things I did. And everything that you don't have time to do or isn't adding to your life or allowing you to make more money or again, progress, teach your assistant how to do it. Have the assistant do it. It's one of the first hires like everyone should make. Like my YouTube channel is like prime example. I don't edit my own videos, right? So that's what I mean. They value time over money, and they know it's worth it. They're more willing to spend the money to give that time back to themselves. And that's how you need to start looking at things. Not like, oh my gosh, but it's so expensive. No, it's giving you your time back so you can do what you need to do to hit your next level. The fourth thing I learned from being around millionaires is that they do not cry over spilled milk. And what I mean is when they have little blips, little bloops, little mishaps in their life, they're not boo-hoo-hoo crying about it for God knows how long, right? They're not thinking like, oh my gosh, my life is over. Oh my gosh, my millions are down the drain, or like whatever it may be, right? It happens. If it's something that they need to be sad about, they're going to be sad about it for the time they need to be sad about it, whether it's a day or 2 days or a week, maybe longer if it's something, you know, more drastic or more sad, like maybe a death in the family. But it's not going to completely derail their life. And it's not going to completely derail their plans. It's not going to completely derail their goals, right? And especially like just taking away like the more drastic things, but even just little things in life, right? Like, oh, you're on your way to work and you got into a car accident, right? And that takes away 2 hours out of your day. So they're not gonna just be like, oh, well, there goes my whole day, I'm done. That's not the case, right? They're not letting these little mishaps completely derail their future. They're not letting these little mishaps, and actually, let me put this in terms of like money, because that's a big thing as well, right? Maybe they make an investment for $5,000 or $10,000 and it doesn't pan out. They're not gonna cry and woe is me and moan about losing that $5,000 or $10,000 and say, well, I'm never gonna invest again. No, right? They're not gonna derail their goals. They're not gonna derail their plans because something didn't pan out, or because there was a mishap, or because there was a mistake, or even a small setback, right? They're not gonna do that. And I see that a lot of times, and I hear it all the time. Like, don't get me wrong. You do need to be meticulous with who you're choosing to be a coach and who you're choosing to pay and which programs you're choosing to join. But just because you had one bad experience with a coach, or you hear other people having bad experience with coaches and saying these people are scammers, doesn't mean you should just be like, well, I'm just never gonna do it. I'm just never gonna do it, right? No, because ultimately, and I talk about this all the time on this channel, the reason I got my business to over $400,000 in just 2 years is because I hired coaches, right? And I'm telling you this, and I'm not even selling you anything, but I hired coaches and I paid money. I paid money for those coaches, okay? Because I knew that I had a goal and I was gonna get there by all means necessary. And I'm not someone who's like afraid to invest in herself. Like I'm the queen of investing in myself. If I believe something is worth it and I need it, I'm take my money. Okay, I'm doing my due diligence. I'm finding the right people, but you have to not let these little things set you back and say like, oh, well, I'm just not going to do it. I have this bad experience, so I'm not going to do it. Or, oh, like my tire popped, so whoa, that's the end of my day, or like whatever, right? These little mishaps are not derailing how you act in the future, right? Maybe you learn from it, but then you keep moving, right? And even if it is like, oh, my tire went, that literally happened to me. I was taking a tight corner. And then when I got home, I parked in my garage and I was like, oh wow, my tire is flat. And all I could do was laugh. Like I have a portable little air thing and I plugged it in and my tire wasn't blowing up. And I was just like, well, and I just laughed. I was like, called my insurance, they put on the spare, and that was the end of that. I wasn't crying over it or saying like, oh my gosh, I spent so much money on a new tire. Like, you know, it happens and it moves on. And that's it. The fifth thing I learned from being around millionaires is that they guard their space. Oh my goodness, this is such a big one. And what I mean when I say they guard their space is literally their space, right? Like they're not just going to let anyone into their personal space. They're not just gonna let anyone into their personal environment. They're not just gonna let anyone into their inner circle. Right? Like you aren't just meeting a millionaire and they're immediately letting you into their inner circle. Like it can happen if they really like you, but for the most part, they're very careful about who they let into their personal spaces because they guard it, right? They've probably worked hard to get to where they are and working hard to get to wherever it is they want to keep going to, right? And they've learned a lot along the way and they don't want people using them. Like this is such a big one. They don't want people using them. Like so many people they try to take advantage of people. And I think that's like, you're not accounting for the time, the effort, the work, the knowledge, and yes, the money that person put in to get to where they are. And then here some people come like little leeches, like just trying to like suck onto them and like leech, right? Like No, they guard their spaces very carefully. They want to be around people who genuinely want to learn from them or be with them for who they are as a person. They want to carefully monitor what they're letting into their brain because, again, mindset is a very, very big thing. They are so careful with who they keep as their friend group. That is so, so important for them. Who is around them and who they talk to, it's tight. It's a tight circle. They're not just letting any and everyone into that tight circle. And I talk about this all the time. You really have to be careful or really have to be conscious of who you are letting into your personal space. Like, who's in your environment? Who are your friends? Like, what does your environment look like? What are your daily conversations? Are these people lifting you up? Are these people adding value to your life? Are they making you and pushing you towards your goals? Are they likewise trying to elevate themselves, or are they keeping you down? Or are they secret haters, right? These are the types of people millionaires are not keeping around them. Like, snip, snip. If it's the wrong person, you gotta go and you gotta let them go. And millionaires are very, very serious about that. They guard their space, they guard their mind, they guard everything. And that's, again, like, just personally a super, super important thing to do, I think, for everyone, because the saying, what is the saying? You are the sum of the closest 5 people you hang around. Or closest 3 people. I think it's 5, something along those lines. And it's just so true. So watch the company you keep, because millionaires do. The 6th thing I learned from being around millionaires and multimillionaires is that they use tax write-offs to their advantage. And here, number 1, like, if you're a high earner, you should have a CPA, a CFO, whatever, just period, right? Just, you need to get one, okay? Especially because you probably don't know the tax code. You need someone who does know the tax code and who is adept at knowing it and helping you with write-offs for your income level. So with that being said, they use tax write-offs to their advantage, right? Because nobody wants to be paying a $100,000 tax bill. Nobody. And so they're using these write-offs to their advantage. That's why you see a lot of them with nonprofits, because you can write off charitable donations. Now, none of this is tax advice, but I'm just telling you, again, like, what I know, right? So that's why you see a lot of them with nonprofits. That's why you see a lot of them, if they're doing it right, let me say, because this may not be the case for everyone, but driving fancy cars, because you can write off the depreciation on a car if it weighs a certain, like, there's some like nuances there, but just know that yes, you can write that off as a business expense if you primarily use it for business. Again, there's so many nuances here. I'm not getting into all of that. That's why you need a tax advisor. That's why you need a CPA, whatever. But just know that they are taking advantages of these write-offs, right? Especially if you own if you own a house, if you own rental properties, different things along those lines, they're not letting just all of these little things just be bygones. No, they're using these advantages, because the more money you keep, that's more money for you to invest. That's more money for you to make. And so they're aware of this. They have, again, hired the right people to help them along those lines. Number 7 is probably my absolute favorite. The 7th thing I've learned is that they are hyper-focused on their goals. Guys, let me tell you something. When you see millionaires or when you see multimillionaires, they did not get there by accident. Like, if they, like, we're obviously putting aside the people who were born into it. They did not get there by accident. They were intentional, okay? They worked for it. They worked hard for it. And as someone who is actively working for it as well, I promise you they worked hard for it, because hitting that multi-million, it's not an easy thing to do by any means. So they are hyper-focused on that goal, and no thing, person, whatever is going to tear them apart or stop them from going after that goal. I kid you not, they are literally obsessed with hitting that goal. It's like all they think about. They dream about it. And this is also like, I'm again, not there yet, but I will be. But these are things that I noticed I was doing unconsciously when I was getting to those $300,000 numbers, $400,000 numbers, 60K months, etc. right? I would be dreaming about it. I would get up at 3 a.m. and work on it, right? And that's what they're doing. They are driven. They are dedicated to hitting those goals, and nothing is stopping them. So if you do have these goals, you have to really, really be so focused in on it. And that's also why you just in general want to have something that is truly meaningful to you and have a goal that's meaningful to you and not necessarily built upon or directed towards what anyone else thinks, because you do have to put in this different level of effort, a different kind of effort, if you want to see that multi-million-dollar level of success. right? So hyper focus on goals. I think this is probably one of my favorite ones. The 8th thing I've learned from being around multimillionaires is that they do not keep tons of cash in checking accounts or savings accounts. And this seems to come as a surprise to so many people when I tell them, but why do you like, they're now I'm going to use some different numbers here. Obviously for multimillionaires and millionaires, this is going to be a different number because what they're spending on a daily basis is not going to be what you're spending on a daily basis. So for instance, if you are making, let's say $500,000 and under per year, like between $100,000 and $500,000 per year, you wouldn't want to have $100,000 just sitting in a checking account, because if you're making that amount of money, you shouldn't be spending $100,000 a month, right? Because you're only making between $100,000 and $500,000 a year. You shouldn't be spending $100,000 a month. So that shouldn't be what's sitting in your checking account. Like obviously for millionaires, the number is higher. Maybe they do have $100,000 in their checking account. But the point is, relative to the income, they don't have tons of that money sitting in a checking account or in a savings account. Why? Because that is dead money. That money is losing value. That money is depreciating, right? Especially if it's in a checking account or a regular savings account. Yeah, you have your like high yield savings, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your actual I just have this in my regular savings account, just collecting a penny per day, or like $2 a month or $3 a month, right? No, that money is losing. That money is losing for you. They're investing that money, right? In the stock market, in real estate, in art, in gold, in businesses, in startups, in so many different places. That money is being invested. That money is working for them. And that's what you want to have. You want to have your money working for you. So ideally, like, okay, I spend around this much every month and this is what I'm going to do. And actually, I'll give you a little bonus tip here that I've learned. Multi-millionaires, they actually have credit cards that don't have limits, black cards. And with those black cards, that's what they're using to charge their daily expenses on. And then when it's time to pay it off, they'll transfer the money from their high yield savings account or wherever they're keeping it, their investment account, whatever, and then they'll pay off that card. So again, the point is they're not hoarding their wealth in regular savings accounts or regular checking accounts, because that money is just losing money. So that's a little bonus tip at the end there, is like the credit cards. And maybe you don't qualify for a black card, maybe you don't have a black card, but there are still other credit cards that you can get and charge most of your expenses to, and then pay it off in full every single month. That is what I do. I charge all of my expenses onto my credit card. There's so many different ones that you can use. Find the one that makes sense for what you spend each month and how you go about it each month. But those are the 8 plus 1, so 9 things I've learned from being around millionaires and multi-millionaires. I hope you guys found this video helpful. Let me know down in the comments below which one of these things was your favorite tip. And don't forget to follow me on my other social media at Sephora Gray Esquire. That's ESQ for short. And guys, I am pretty soon going to be launching a brand new like financial and wealth building or financial freedom community. So the link to join that potential community, which it's not ready and I don't really know what it's going to be about, but we'll find out. The link will be in the description box below. Make sure you share with someone who is on their journey to financial freedom like I am, and probably like you are. And I will see you guys on my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.